Michael, stop everything. She knew before she volunteered. The words came through Michael Park's phone with such quiet certainty that, for the first time that morning, the billionaire forgot to look at the clock. He stood beside the window of a private Manhattan hospital room, wearing a pale hospital gown instead of the tailored charcoal suits that had become part of his armor. 40 minutes remained before surgery. Somewhere beyond the white double doors, Alicia Grant was being prepared to give him one of her kidneys. Michael had spent 40 years learning how power worked. Companies responded to his signature. Executives waited when he entered a room. Men familiar with the hidden influence surrounding the Park organization understood that Michael rarely asked twice. Yet none of that mattered here. His money could secure renowned specialists and a private room overlooking the East River, but it could not order his failing kidneys to recover. It could not manufacture a compatible donor. Most of all, it could not explain why Alicia, a 31-year-old black woman who had once been little more than another employee inside his hotel empire, had volunteered to undergo surgery for him without demanding anything in return. Michael tightened his grip on the phone. "Caleb, what are you talking about?" Caleb Foster had once worked as a federal financial investigator before becoming an independent forensic consultant. Michael had not heard his voice in years. That alone made the call unsettling. "Do not let her go any farther until you understand what she already knows." Michael looked toward the corridor. "Knew what?" A pause followed. "What your family did to hers." Michael's expression hardened. "Be precise. Do you remember Choreo Health Logistics?" The name reached backward through decades of Park family business records, old subsidiaries, reorganizations, and companies Michael had inherited rather than created. Barely. Alicia's father, Marcus Grant, spent his final years receiving treatment inside a healthcare network connected to that company. Michael stopped breathing for a moment. Alicia had told him about Marcus. A school maintenance worker from Queens. A father who had waited for a kidney that never came. But she had never connected him to the Park family. "Are you saying my family caused his death?" "No," Caleb replied immediately. "I am saying the records raise serious questions about companies your family benefited from. I am still separating facts from assumptions." Michael turned from the window. "Does Alicia know?" Another silence. This one felt longer. She knew there was a connection before she completed her donor evaluation. Michael looked at the digital clock beside his bed. 39 minutes. Suddenly, memories he had dismissed began returning with uncomfortable clarity. Alicia refusing special treatment, Alicia speaking about dignity as though the word carried history, Alicia looking away whenever he asked why she had chosen him. "Why would she still give me a kidney?" Michael asked. Caleb's answer came softly. "That is not a question I can answer for her." Outside, wheels moved quietly along the hospital corridor. Michael stepped toward the door and saw Alicia being taken toward the preoperative area beneath the cold morning lights. Her hands rested over a white blanket. Her face was composed. She turned at exactly the right moment, and their eyes met through the doorway. Alicia gave him the smallest nod. Yesterday, Michael would have understood it as reassurance. Now he saw something else behind her calmness. A truth. A choice. Perhaps even a judgment she had never spoken aloud. Michael raised the phone again. "Tell me everything." Caleb inhaled slowly. "Then listen carefully, because after this, you will never look at what she is doing for you the same way again." 6 months earlier, Alicia Grant was someone Michael Park could pass in a marble lobby without remembering 5 minutes later. She worked guest relations at Park Meridian Crown, a luxury Manhattan hotel where polished brass doors opened for politicians, celebrities, executives, and people accustomed to having inconvenience removed before it reached them. Alicia arrived before 7 each morning in a neatly pressed navy uniform, her natural curls carefully styled, her expression warm even when guests were not. She remembered anniversaries, solved reservation mistakes, helped exhausted parents find lost luggage, and spoke to housekeepers with the same respect she gave penthouse guests. Michael knew none of that. The hotel was only one piece of an empire stretching through real estate, hospitality, shipping, and private investments. He entered through private entrances, traveled with Jason Kim and a small security detail, and moved through rooms where voices lowered when people recognized him. Alicia had seen Michael dozens of times. Michael had never learned her name. That changed on a gray November afternoon when rain covered Manhattan in silver. Michael crossed the lobby with Jason beside him, discussing numbers from an acquisition while two executives followed several feet behind. Alicia noticed immediately that something was wrong. Michael's face looked unusually pale. He paused near the private elevator and pressed his fingers briefly against the brass frame before stepping inside. Alicia was carrying documents to the executive floor, so she entered just before the doors closed. Michael continued speaking. "Move the conference call to 4:30. I want the revised projections before legal reviews the agreement." Jason nodded. The elevator climbed. At the 10th floor, Michael stopped mid-sentence. His hand closed around the rail. "Michael?" Jason asked. "I am fine." Alicia looked at him. His breathing had changed, and the confidence in his voice no longer matched what his body was telling her. "Mr. Park, please sit down." Michael turned toward her with an expression that had intimidated people with far more authority. "I said I am fine." Then his balance shifted. Alicia stepped forward, steadied his arm, and helped guide him carefully to the floor. Jason immediately reached for his phone while Alicia pressed the emergency call button. "We need medical assistance in the private elevator," she said clearly. Michael tried to rise. Alicia shook her head. "Please stay seated until help arrives." His eyes found hers. There was no panic in Alicia's face and no fascination with the powerful man suddenly unable to command his own body. She simply saw someone who needed help. "Keep looking at me," she said. "Take slow breaths. Help is coming." For reasons Michael could not explain, he listened. The elevator stopped, hotel security arrived, and paramedics followed minutes later. Once they took over, Alicia quietly stepped aside. She expected the moment to end there. Hours later, Michael awakened in a private hospital room with his younger sister Rachel sitting beside him. A physician entered holding test results. Michael's first question was predictable. "When can I leave?" Rachel's expression tightened. The physician pulled a chair closer. "Mr. Park, we found significant abnormalities in your kidney function. We need additional testing, but I need you to understand that this may be serious." Michael said nothing. Serious was a word usually attached to problems he could assign to someone else. This one belonged entirely to him. After the physician left, Michael stared at the ceiling until the elevator returned to his mind. The calm voice. The steady eyes. The woman who had given him instructions without caring whether he liked them. "The employee," Michael said. Rachel looked confused. "What employee?" "The woman in the elevator." He paused, realizing how little he knew about someone who had just seen him at his most vulnerable. "Find out her name." Rachel made a call to the hotel. A minute later, she lowered the phone. "Alicia Grant. Guest relations." Michael repeated it quietly. Alicia Grant. For the first time, the woman he had never noticed had become someone he could not forget. The doctors gave Michael Park every advantage medicine could legally provide, but none of them could give him the one thing he wanted most: control. Over the following weeks, specialists confirmed that his kidney disease was advanced. Treatment could stabilize him, but his physicians believed a transplant offered his strongest chance at a healthier future. Michael reacted the way he handled every crisis. He demanded options. Jason Kim contacted respected medical centers. Rachel volunteered for donor testing before her brother could object. Other relatives stepped forward. One by one, those possibilities disappeared. Some were incompatible. Others were excluded for medical reasons. Rachel took the news personally. "I should be able to help you," she whispered one evening in Michael's penthouse. Michael stood near the windows overlooking the East River, his face reflected faintly in the glass. "You already are." It was one of the few gentle things he had said in weeks. Illness had made him impatient with his own body. Meetings became shorter. Meals became smaller. Some mornings, exhaustion followed him before he even reached his office. Still, whenever his doctors allowed him to work, Michael arrived at Park Meridian Crown in a tailored suit and carried himself as though nothing had changed. Alicia noticed anyway. She never questioned him about his health. She simply held the elevator a few seconds longer when he approached and once arranged a chair near the guest relations desk after seeing him pause against a marble column. Michael noticed the chair. He also noticed that Alicia never mentioned placing it there. Several days later, Alicia delivered documents to Rachel at the hospital and found her alone in the family lounge, staring at a cup of coffee that had gone cold. "How is he doing?" Alicia asked. Rachel gave a tired smile. "Still trying to negotiate with his kidneys." Alicia almost laughed, but Rachel's expression quickly faded. "They are evaluating him for transplant. I was tested as a living donor, but I am not compatible." The words reached somewhere Alicia had kept closed for years. That night, she returned to her apartment in Queens and pulled a worn wooden box from the back of her closet. Inside were photographs, hospital letters, insurance papers, and a picture of her father, Marcus Grant, standing outside the public school where he had worked in maintenance for more than 25 years. Marcus had been the kind of man who repaired broken classroom doors before anyone asked and carried groceries upstairs for elderly neighbors without expecting thanks. Then his kidneys failed. Alicia remembered hospital waiting rooms after midnight. She remembered keeping her phone beside her pillow because every unexpected call could mean hope. She remembered Marcus telling her not to build her life around his illness. He died before receiving the transplant he needed. Alicia sat at her kitchen table until nearly 2 a.m, surrounded by papers she had not opened in years. Near the bottom of the box was an old envelope containing correspondence from Marcus's final months. One company name appeared repeatedly. Corio Health Logistics. Alicia did not understand why it felt familiar. She set the envelope aside and opened her laptop. Before searching the company, however, she found the number for Michael's transplant program. The following morning, she called. A coordinator explained that volunteering did not guarantee donation. There would be medical testing, psychological screening, and an independent donor advocate. Alicia could withdraw at any time. Nobody connected to Michael could force her to continue. "I understand," Alicia said. Weeks of evaluations followed quietly. She told no one at Park Meridian Crown. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Dr. Linda Cho called. "Alicia, your preliminary compatibility results are very encouraging." Alicia closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the strange collision between memory and possibility. Across Manhattan, Rachel entered Michael's office carrying news she could barely believe. They found a potential living donor. Michael slowly looked up. "Who?" Rachel hesitated. "Alicia Grant." Michael stared at her. Why was she tested? Rachel answered softly. "Because she volunteered." For the first time since his diagnosis, Michael was offered something he desperately needed, and instead of relief, he felt suspicion. He understood deals. He understood debts. What he did not understand was why a woman who owed him nothing had quietly decided that his life was worth saving. Michael did not celebrate. He remained behind his desk, staring at Rachel as if she had delivered a problem rather than the first hopeful news he had received in weeks. "Who asked her to do this?" Rachel folded her arms. "Nobody." "Did Jason speak to her?" "No, someone from the transplant team must have approached her." "Michael," Alicia contacted them herself. That answer disturbed him more than anything else. In Michael's world, people rarely offered something valuable without expecting something valuable in return. Money created loyalty. Access created obligation. Protection created debt. Yet Alicia Grant had entered a demanding medical evaluation without telling him, his family, or anyone at Park Meridian Crown. "I want to speak with her." Rachel studied him carefully. "Then speak to her. Do not interrogate her." 2 days later, Alicia entered Michael's private office after finishing her shift. She still wore her Navy guest relations uniform, and the quiet confidence in her expression made Michael realize how little authority his reputation seemed to carry with her. He remained beside his desk. "Why did you volunteer?" Alicia met his gaze. "Because I chose to." "That does not explain why." "Maybe you are asking the wrong question." Michael's eyes narrowed. "What should I be asking?" "Whether I understand the decision I am making." "Do you?" "Yes." Dr. Cho explained the risks. "I have an independent donor advocate. I know I can withdraw at any time." Michael stepped away from the desk. "You barely know me." "That is true." "Then what do you want from me?" Alicia became completely still. "There it is." "What?" "The price." Michael frowned. "I did not say anything about money." "You did not have to. You think every important choice has a transaction hiding underneath it." The room fell silent. Few people challenged Michael directly, and fewer did it without raising their voice. Alicia continued. "My kidney is not for sale, Mr. Park. Neither is my decision." Michael looked away for a moment. "Then help me understand." Something softened in Alicia's face. "My father's name was Marcus Grant. He worked maintenance at a public school in Queens for more than 25 years. When his kidneys failed, our lives became appointments, treatment schedules, waiting rooms, and phone calls that never brought the news we wanted." Michael remembered Rachel mentioning her father. "He was waiting for a transplant." Alicia nodded. "He died before one became available." Michael's expression changed. "I am sorry." "So am I." Her voice remained calm. "But grief taught me something. There are people sitting in hospital rooms tonight hoping a stranger will make a generous choice. I cannot help all of them. I might be able to help one." Michael studied her. "Why me?" Alicia hesitated. "Because you are the person standing in front of the opportunity one was given." It was an answer Michael could not convert into numbers. He glanced toward the windows, then back at her. "If donation creates legitimate expenses or financial hardship, the transplant program can explain what assistance is legally available. I will not make your decision into a private arrangement." Alicia's shoulders relaxed slightly. "That is the first thing you have said today that sounds like you understand." Michael almost smiled. Then Alicia reached for her handbag, and a worn envelope slipped partly from between her folders. She caught it quickly, but not before Michael saw 3 printed words across an old document. Koryo Health Logistics. His expression changed immediately. The name belonged to a company buried deep in Park family history. "Alicia." She stopped near the door. "Where did you get that?" Her hand tightened around the envelope. For the first time since entering his office, her composure faltered. "Only slightly. It belonged to my father." Michael stared at her. What did Koryo Health Logistics have to do with Marcus? Alicia looked back at him, sadness replacing the calm distance in her eyes. "That is something I am still trying to understand." Then she left, carrying the envelope with her. Michael remained alone in the office, surrounded by everything his family had built, wondering whether the woman offering to save his future had already discovered something buried in his past. For several days after Alicia left his office, Michael said nothing about Koryo Health Logistics. He could have ordered Jason to search every archived Park family record before sunrise, but something stopped him. Alicia had not accused him. She had not demanded answers. She had simply admitted that she was trying to understand what the company had meant to her father. Michael decided that forcing his way into her private grief would prove she had been right about him. Then their private situation became public. On Wednesday morning, Alicia arrived at Park Meridian Crown and found reporters waiting near the entrance. By noon, online stories identified her as Michael Park's potential living kidney donor. Nobody knew who had leaked the information, but speculation spread faster than facts. Some strangers called her courageous. Others insisted a billionaire's employee would never volunteer without expecting money, a promotion, or permanent financial security. Alicia stopped reading after the first few comments. Michael offered additional security and paid leave while the attention faded. She accepted reasonable protection but refused to disappear. "I have done nothing I need to hide from," she told him. 4 nights later, Park Meridian Crown hosted its annual charity dinner for public education programs across New York City. Alicia had been scheduled to work the event for months, and she kept her shift. Beneath warm chandeliers, hundreds of guests filled the ballroom while soft music drifted between white tables and crystal glasses. Michael attended despite his fatigue, seated beside Rachel and Jason near the center of the room. He noticed Alicia moving calmly between guests, carrying herself exactly as she had before anyone knew her name. Then Vanessa Caldwell stepped into her path. Vanessa represented a wealthy investment group negotiating a major hospitality partnership with Park Meridian. She smiled politely, but her eyes carried something colder. "So you are the woman everyone has been discussing." Alicia kept her professional expression. "Is there something I can help you with, Miss Caldwell?" Vanessa glanced toward several nearby guests. "I was only curious. Giving something so significant to a man like Michael Park must create extraordinary opportunities." Alicia understood the implication immediately. "My medical decisions are private." Vanessa gave a quiet laugh. "Of course. Still, nobody gives a billionaire a kidney for nothing." Conversations around them began to fade. Alicia felt dozens of eyes turning toward her. She did not lower hers. "You are entitled to your assumptions," she said. "You are not entitled to make them my truth." Vanessa's smile tightened. "I meant no disrespect." "Then you should have stopped before disrespect became the point." A glass touched a table behind them. Michael stood. His illness had left his face pale, but his voice remained controlled. "Miss Caldwell." Vanessa turned. "Michael, this is only conversation." "No. It is judgment disguised as curiosity." The ballroom fell silent. Michael walked closer but stopped several feet away, leaving Alicia her space. "You reduced her decision to money because that is the only motive you were willing to imagine." Vanessa looked around uneasily. "Surely you are not making a business issue out of this." "I am withdrawing Park Meridian from our partnership negotiations." Her expression changed. "Over one comment?" "Over what the comment revealed." Michael looked toward Alicia, then back at Vanessa. "Miss Grant does not need me to assign her dignity. She already has it." Vanessa said nothing. She simply turned and walked away beneath the weight of a room that no longer belonged to her confidence. Later, Michael found Alicia near the ballroom windows overlooking Fifth Avenue. "You did not have to end negotiations because of me," she said. "I did not." Michael watched headlights moving below. "I ended them because she showed me how she sees people." Alicia studied him for a moment. "That sounds expensive." Michael finally looked at her. "I am beginning to understand that some things cost more when you ignore them." Alicia smiled faintly. For the first time, Michael felt that she was looking at him without the distance of employee and owner between them. Then his eyes fell briefly toward her handbag. The old envelope was inside. Corio Health Logistics remained unanswered. Michael could have asked again. He chose not to. What he did not know was that Alicia had already found someone capable of answering the question, and the truth that man uncovered would reach Michael when only 40 minutes remained. The night before surgery, Michael Park discovered that uncertainty had a sound. It was the quiet hum of hospital ventilation after midnight, the soft wheels of carts moving beyond his door, and the steady rhythm of the monitor beside his bed reminding him that his body no longer respected authority. Rachel had gone home only after making him promise to rest. Jason had left shortly afterward. Michael closed his eyes, but sleep never came. Near midnight, he put on a dark robe over his hospital clothes and asked a nurse whether Alicia was awake. With permission from the medical staff, he was taken to her room. Alicia sat near the window with an unopened book resting across her lap. Manhattan glowed beyond the glass. "You should be sleeping," she said. Michael settled into the chair across from her. "You first." A tired smile crossed Alicia's face. "Apparently neither of us follows instructions well." For several seconds, silence did what conversation could not. There was no Park Meridian crown between them, no ballroom, no private office, no tailored suit, no employee uniform. There were only two people waiting for morning. Michael finally asked, "Are you afraid?" Alicia looked toward the city. "Yes." The answer surprised him. "You never seem afraid." "Being calm does not mean being fearless." She folded her hands over the book. "Sometimes courage is simply deciding that fear does not get the final vote." Michael lowered his eyes. "You can still change your mind." "I know. And if you do, your job stays exactly the same. Your benefits stay the same. Nobody from my family or company will question you." Alicia looked back at him. "The donor team already made that clear. I needed you to hear it from me." Her expression softened. "Then I heard you." Michael leaned back slowly. "My whole life, I have understood people by what they wanted. Money. Access. Security. Influence. Something measurable. And when you cannot measure it, I distrust it." Alicia nodded as though he had finally admitted something she had known from the beginning. "That must be exhausting." Michael almost laughed. "It is." She studied him for a moment. "You learn to measure people before you learn to see them." Michael became quiet. Months earlier, the sentence would have offended him. Now it simply felt accurate. At the charity dinner, Alicia continued, "You did something different." "I ended a negotiation." "No. You stopped treating respect like something powerful people get to distribute." Michael met her eyes. "I am learning." "I noticed." Another silence settled between them, warmer this time. Then Michael remembered the worn envelope. "Your father." Alicia's expression changed immediately. "What about him? If Marcus were here tonight, would he understand why you are doing this?" Alicia looked down at the book. Her fingers tightened around its cover. "I hope so." Michael noticed the hesitation. "That is not a yes." Alicia drew a slow breath. "My father believed that what other people did wrong should never decide what kind of person you become." Michael felt something shift beneath the words. "Why does that sound like it has something to do with me?" Alicia lifted her eyes. For 1 second, grief and resolve existed together in them. "Because it does." Michael waited. She offered nothing more. He could have demanded an explanation. Instead, he stood. "Good night, Alicia." "Good night, Michael." He reached the doorway and stopped. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I will never treat what you are doing as something I purchased." Alicia nodded slowly. "Then remember that when gratitude becomes uncomfortable." Michael left carrying a question he could no longer dismiss. After the door closed, Alicia reached into her overnight bag and removed the worn envelope. Koryo Health Logistics appeared across the first document. Beneath it rested notes, old medical correspondence, and information she had gathered with Caleb Foster's help. She touched her father's name with one finger before returning everything to the envelope. Across the city, Caleb was still reviewing the final records. Before sunrise, he would find the connection Alicia had feared existed. And by morning, Michael would finally understand why saving his life had never meant forgiving his family. Morning arrived without ceremony. Pale winter light spread across Michael Park's hospital room while nurses moved through the private floor with practiced calm, checking identification, medications, and final preparations. Michael had slept less than 2 hours. Alicia's words from the night before remained with him. What other people did wrong should never decide what kind of person you become. At 7:15, Dr. Linda Cho entered with a tablet in her hands. She reviewed the plan once more and reminded Michael that Alicia remained free to withdraw her consent until the procedure began. If she changes her mind, we stop, Dr. Cho said. Michael nodded. And she does not owe me an explanation. Dr. Cho studied him briefly. That is correct. Across the hall, Alicia was having her own final conversation with her independent donor advocate. The questions were direct. Had anyone pressured her? No. Had anyone promised her money, employment advantages, housing, or private compensation? No. Did she believe Michael's survival was her responsibility? Alicia paused before answering. No. His life is not my responsibility. My decision is. The advocate nodded. That distinction mattered. After she was alone again, Alicia opened the worn envelope from her overnight bag. Months earlier, while sorting Marcus Grant's old medical records, she had found repeated references to Koryo Health Logistics. She searched public corporate filings and discovered that the company had once been connected to Park family business interests. But Alicia refused to turn suspicion into accusation. An archived newspaper article eventually led her to Caleb Foster, a former federal financial investigator who now worked independently as a forensic consultant. Caleb had once questioned Michael years earlier during an unrelated review involving a Park family subsidiary, which was why the two men already knew each other. Alicia contacted him with one request. Tell me whether Michael was involved in what happened to my father. Caleb spent weeks examining ownership records, old contracts, public filings, and documents Alicia had preserved from Marcus's treatment. His preliminary conclusion had complicated everything. Michael had been young and living on the West Coast during the period when Marcus was waiting for a transplant. Caleb found no evidence that Michael had personally made decisions affecting Marcus. But Koryo had financial connections to healthcare contractors that had served patients like him. Alicia learned that much before completing her donor evaluation. She could have withdrawn. Instead, she remembered the man who raised her. Marcus had spent his final years hoping someone he had never met might choose generosity. Alicia refused to let another family's possible wrongdoing decide what kind of daughter his lessons had created. At 7:35, a nurse entered. They are ready to take you to the preoperative area. Alicia returned the papers to the envelope. All right. As she was moved down the corridor, she passed Michael's doorway. Their eyes met. Alicia gave him a small nod. Michael returned it. For several seconds, he felt unexpectedly calm. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen. Caleb Foster. Michael answered immediately. Caleb. The voice on the other end was tense. Michael, I confirmed the final records last night. Michael stood beside the bed. What did you find? More than Alicia knew when she made her decision. Michael's eyes moved toward the clock. Tell me. Caleb hesitated. Koryo was not simply doing business with companies inside that healthcare network. The Park family had a direct financial interest in several contracts connected to it. Michael said nothing. There is still no evidence that you personally participated, Caleb continued. And I cannot tell you that Koryo caused Marcus Grant's death. But the financial relationship was deeper than Alicia understood. Michael looked toward the corridor where she had disappeared. The clock changed. 40 minutes remained. Does Alicia know what you just confirmed? Not yet. Michael's voice became quieter. Then she needs to know before anything continues. Caleb paused. There is something else. Michael tightened his grip on the phone. What? Caleb lowered his voice. Your father's signature appears on one of the authorization records. The hospital room seemed to lose every sound at once. Michael stared at the clock, realizing the question was no longer whether Alicia had known something about his family. The question was what she would choose after learning the part neither of them had known. Michael did not ask Caleb another question. Send the records to Jason and Dr. Cho's office. Everything you have. He ended the call and pressed the nurse button. When Dr. Linda Cho returned, Michael was already standing beside the bed, the phone still in his hand. I need the procedure paused before Alicia goes any farther. Dr. Cho's expression sharpened. Has something changed medically? No. She needs information that may affect her decision. Michael explained only what was necessary. Dr. Cho listened without interruption, then nodded. Her consent must remain informed and voluntary. I will speak with her first. Michael sat down as she left. For once, waiting was the only authority he had. Several minutes later, Alicia was moved into a private consultation room. Dr. Cho explained that new information had emerged concerning Koryo Health Logistics and asked whether Alicia wanted to hear it before making any further decision. Alicia answered immediately. Yes. Michael was brought in afterward in a wheelchair. He looked smaller without the architecture of his usual world around him. Alicia noticed the phone in his hand. Caleb called. It was not a question. Michael nodded. He confirmed records you had not seen. Alicia's face remained composed, but her fingers tightened together. What records? Michael swallowed. Koryo had a deeper financial relationship with contractors in the healthcare network your father depended on than Caleb first understood. Alicia said nothing. There is still no evidence proving Koryo caused what happened to Marcus. There is no evidence that I was personally involved. But Caleb found an authorization record. Michael stopped. Alicia waited. My father signed it. The silence afterward seemed to expand through the room. Alicia looked toward the floor. Michael had seen people react to devastating business news with anger, panic, denial, bargaining. Alicia did none of those things. She simply breathed. Slowly. Carefully. What did the authorization do? She asked. Caleb is still determining its exact role. I will not pretend we know more than we do. Alicia raised her eyes. Thank you for saying that. Michael stared at her. You are thanking me for giving me facts instead of conclusions. The answer unsettled him. Alicia, you do not have to continue. I know. Not because of me. Not because of the hotel. Not because you think your father would expect it. His voice weakened. And certainly not because you feel sorry for me. Alicia studied him for several seconds. You still think this decision is about what you deserve. Michael became silent. It is not, she continued. If I only helped people after deciding whether they deserved compassion, then compassion would become another transaction. My family may have benefited while your father suffered. Yes. How can you sit there and still consider saving me? Alicia's eyes glistened, but her voice remained steady. Because you are not your father. And I am not going to become my grief. Michael looked away. That sounds too easy. It is not easy. Alicia's voice tightened for the first time. My father died waiting for something another person had to choose to give. I remember every hospital call. Every disappointing update. Every morning he pretended not to be afraid because he did not want me to be afraid. There is nothing easy about sitting here. Michael could not answer. Alicia leaned slightly forward. Saving your life does not erase what happened to him. It does not forgive your family. It does not make the past disappear. Then what does it mean? It means their choices do not control mine. Michael lowered his head. Dr. Cho stepped forward and reminded Alicia that she could take as much time as needed and could withdraw without explanation. Alicia asked to speak privately with her donor advocate again. Michael immediately agreed and was taken back toward his room. Before leaving, he turned toward her. Whatever you decide, I will investigate Koryo. Alicia held his gaze. Do not do it because you are grateful. Michael waited. Do it because the truth matters even if I walk away. The door closed between them. 28 minutes remained on the original schedule, but the clock no longer mattered. For the first time in Michael Park's life, the most important decision in the building belonged entirely to someone else, and he finally understood that respecting Alicia meant allowing her to make it without him in the room. Alicia spent 12 minutes alone with her donor advocate, and when the door finally opened, Michael did not ask what she had decided. He waited in his room beside Rachel while morning light climbed across the windows. Jason stood near the door with Caleb's records already secured for independent review. Dr. Linda Cho entered first. Michael rose slightly from his chair. Alicia has reviewed the new information, she said. She understands that she can withdraw without consequence, and she has confirmed that she wants to proceed. Michael closed his eyes. Relief came first, followed immediately by something heavier. I need to speak with her once more. Dr. Cho considered him, then nodded after confirming Alicia agreed. When Alicia entered, Michael looked at her for several seconds before speaking. You are certain? Yes. Then I need you to understand something. His voice was quieter than she had ever heard it. I will never call this forgiveness. Alicia nodded. Good. And I will never treat it as a debt that gives me a claim on your life. Good. Michael looked down at his hands. Then how do I thank you? Alicia stepped closer, stopping several feet away. Do not pay me back. Repair what you can. Those words followed Michael into surgery. Hours later, when he awakened beneath soft hospital lights, Rachel was sitting beside him with tears in her eyes. His voice was weak. Alicia? Rachel smiled. She is recovering well. Michael closed his eyes again, and for the first time in months, he allowed himself to feel relief without trying to control what came next. Alicia recovered under her own medical team, surrounded by people whose only responsibility was her health. Michael respected the distance. There were no cameras, no public celebration, no extravagant gifts waiting beside her bed. 3 weeks later, while both continued recovering, Michael called Jason. Open every archive connected to Koryo Health Logistics. Jason hesitated. Including your father's records? Especially those. Michael hired independent attorneys, forensic accountants, and healthcare compliance specialists. Caleb joined the review as an outside consultant. Michael gave them one instruction: preserve the evidence and follow it wherever it led. The investigation did not produce a simple villain or an easy explanation for Marcus Grant's death. It uncovered questionable contracting relationships, financial incentives, administrative failures, and decisions that deserved scrutiny. Relevant records were turned over to appropriate authorities for independent review. Several longtime Park associates warned Michael that the investigation could damage the family name. Then the name can survive the truth or it can disappear with the lie, Michael answered. Alicia heard about his actions from Caleb, not Michael. That mattered. Michael was finally doing something without demanding that she witness his goodness. Months passed. His health improved steadily. Alicia returned to her life and eventually to Park Meridian Crown, refusing a promotion she had not earned through the normal process. When Michael later proposed funding an independent organization to help transplant patients with transportation, temporary housing, missed wages, and other eligible non-medical burdens, he asked Alicia only one question. What should it be called? She answered without hesitation. Marcus Grant. The Marcus Grant Patient Support Foundation opened the following spring with independent oversight and a community advisory board. Nearly a year after the transplant, Michael returned to the hospital for a routine appointment. At the end of a bright corridor, he saw Alicia sitting beside a worried family waiting for news about someone they loved. She was not offering promises. She was listening. Michael stopped several yards away. Once, he would have entered expecting the room to make space for him. Now he understood that some moments became smaller when power insisted on standing at their center. Alicia eventually looked up. Their eyes met. Michael gave her a quiet nod. She returned it. He could never rewrite Marcus Grant's final years. Alicia had never offered him absolution, and the kidney she gave him had erased nothing. She had given him another tomorrow and left him responsible for what he built inside it. Michael finally understood that being saved was not the same as being forgiven. Alicia gave him a kidney, but the life he chose to live afterward became the only thank you she was willing to accept.